Yeah, we'll move on from that one. 3 games left. Final game for Miramar as well. After this, we can say goodbye to the dusty terrain as we then head on to Erangel to close out the show, close out the season, close out the year. And for day number 6, match 22 out of 24. Miramar continues to be Divisionx's home playing ground along with Cerberus. Those two teams, though, well, they probably didn't get enough in the last match, and they will need to rectify that here if there is going to be any straw clutching in over at Erangel. Long K, 27 kills, all Miramar. Jordan, next best, 19. What a discrepancy between number 1 and number 2.
Yeah, that's pretty insane, actually. Long K must be getting, like, every kill that Divisionx Gaming has been able to get here. This feels like... That's insane. That's insane. 27 kills, you know, you almost feel like that's probably pretty good for the whole tournament. You're almost getting 1 kill a game at that point. But 27 on 1 map, pretty unreasonable. Anyway, we'll see if Divisionx Gaming can actually do anything here on Miramar, because they didn't really get too much done last game, and this is one of their last remaining opportunities to really close that gap on the top 2. Where does the initial circle go? Oh, fairly similar to last time. Not quite as far out to the east. A little bit of a change up, but may well play out quite similarly.
Yeah, it could. Obviously, it just depends on the next couple of phases, more so probably like phases 3 and 4, for instance. Obviously, it kind of ended up at that field just to the east of water treatment, which is basically dead center at the moment. But knowing these circles, especially in Apac, we don't usually continue to go center all the way to the end. Usually there's a couple of cheeky shifts around, I don't know, phases 3, 4, typically. See how it plays out. Sharper Esport on your screen due to the fact they did win the previous game. Their first win of this season. Looking for, I guess, chicken dinner number 2. And it has got them up into the top 4. Tied with Cerberus. I mean, I'll tell you what, Jordan. If you could just take out Buriram and LG Divine, could you imagine the sort of finish if Divisionx were in first in terms of points all the way down to like 9th, really, even. Maybe not so much 9th, but even Magic Esport, for instance. Really close at the top end.
Very, very close indeed. 181 points, you know. I always sort of like to go back to what would be a total that we expected at the start of the tournament, right? Considering there's 24 rounds, 8 to 10 points a round, you know, 240. I don't think Buriram's going to get there, but 8 points a round, I don't know, you do the maths, it's something. But I think they're doing a pretty good job of being able to keep their heads just above water, to the point where they'll be a little bit too difficult to catch. It's not as unreasonable as maybe what we saw, I think, in that first season from Q Confirm, where it really just looked like they were going to go at like 10 to 12 points a game. And to be fair, that was the same for LG Divine, actually, at the start of this season. But like we always say, that's pretty unsustainable over the course of, 20 or 24 rounds, as we now have. So it's good to be seeing Buriram, hitting that 8-point mark. I think that's kind of the new goal, more or less.
Well, that's the thing, right? We kind of started to speak around, I'd say around 10 was at the point where we're like, okay, it's cooled off for LG Divine. I'll get to this in a minute because I think Exagon might just die here. Unless he's got a vehicle right at the back of this warehouse. As we keep panning out, I'm still expecting to see a vehicle. That is technically a vehicle, but you can't drive it in PUBG. That's just a blue tractor. No vehicle for Exagon, but does make it out. So I'll go back to the point I was making. But when LG Divine went on their 5 out of 7 win streak, we said it was unsustainable, that they wouldn't be able to continue to do that. And while they were doing that, Buriram United were getting their 8 to 9 points a game. They kept the gap pretty slim. And as soon as we saw LG Divine really cool off, it was pretty evident that Buriram were going to overtake them at some point. And really, we've seen the fruits of that as we get towards the end. LG Divine continued to cool off. Buriram just continued to go about their merry way from game 1 now all the way to game 22. Fortunately for Exagon, does get out of that, by the way. Babe, what big center crash onto that warehouse. But I guess after what we saw in the last game, Jordan, not a surprise to see them play like this.
Yeah, really not a whole lot actually going on at the moment. Outside of rotations, there isn't really any engagements happening just yet. A lot of the teams to the southern part of the map have actually decided that they want to make a late rotation. They're taking their time looting things up. So, we're looking at from the future. We're looking at Cerberus at the moment. But these are the teams that are kind of already inside of the circle, actually. So they're jostling for those better positions, and they're looking to maybe make a bit of an earlier rotation. But the teams down toward Los Leones, Chumacera, Porto Paraíso, etc., are already kind of resigned to the fact that they're going to be coming in later than most teams anyway. So they might as well take that bit of extra time to loot up, find a few more smokes, find a few more nades, and just try to win their game that way, play from the edge rather than looking for a center circle position. So two different schools of thought, which is fair enough. But luckily for Buriram and LG Divine, at least, start of this game has gone quite differently than what we saw from game one of this evening, where both actually have all 4 players of their roster alive. So scary thoughts for a team like Divisionx Gaming, who is in that, maybe still in that race.
Well, I mean, compared to the last game, right? In about a minute and a half, we saw about 8 people die by that point. Like, we saw a couple of fights. LG Divine lost a couple players. Buriram lost a player. It was a very hectic Miramar start. Me and Edge were sort of discussing yesterday that for Miramar's sake, it's very slow going. Early matches, it's been that way basically since its inception compared to Erangel. And yet the last match was the contrary. It was fast, it was hectic, it was in breaches. It was from Bay, for instance, as well. LG Divine were getting in the scrap as well. So sometimes it doesn't always play to the script. In this case, for Fury, as they make their move now, just past Minas Generales, well, the script has certainly not gone well for them in 2020 when you look at it from the whole picture now. But they've got to make sure that they don't drop out of the top 6 at this point. That would be devastating.
How does this keep happening?
Edia will be picked up. That's fine. For Fury, it's all about making sure they get at least 3rd from here, fighting against Cerberus, Sharper, Divisionx, for instance, 6. Sax, not quite going to get Los Santos. Does get a lot of that Marauder, though, and does get some chip damage onto him as well. But phase 1, 2 minutes to go, and there's still a lot of teams that are quite congested and centralized already for this sort of circle. Obviously, a lot of teams are avoiding that wheat field that we saw at the end of the last game. No one inside of water treatment, but a lot of teams down towards the south of the center point, so around San Martin, around Minas Generales.
Everyone's on their merry way. Maximus, big long spray down. Does a bit of damage to those Purple Mood players that are rotating past him. Sharper Esport, great start to today, and they'd love to get another point on the board here, but these are difficult shots to hit. Some of them being connected, but the majority are not. Oh, there we go. Well, give them that many chances, and inevitably someone's bound to hit a good shot. This time it's Maximus, and Bossens out of the picture for Purple Mood Esport. So points on the board early on in the piece for Sharper Esports. Could be their day today, Xenox. I wonder.
Well, could it be
special?
A fairy tale finish potentially on the cards? Maybe not so much first, but heck, even 3rd is a fairy tale finish in essence from where they were to where they could be.
7th place they came in today.
Yeah, 24 points behind LG Divine, so even 2nd is still attainable, provided LG Divine don't do anything too crazy, which would mean that would kind of impact the 2-horse race, wouldn't it? Because then that would be a little bit boring. So see what happens. But they're in the same position, I guess, as Cerberus, Fury, Divisionx Gaming, 3rd to 6th. Basically nothing separating those teams. Victim Rise just outside of San Martin for the most part. Bit of a split with Chiberet further north of field. Inside of the field, in fact. Divisionx Gaming going to get on the move, getting pressured by Ferox as we get phase number 2. And it heads over to Cruz de Vai, Torreya Yamada as well, still in up north. Good circle, actually, for LG Divine. And maybe this is what they need, Jordan, just a bit of circle luck.
Yep.
Similar to what they got in the first 5, 6, 7 games.
Well, this will be the perfect kind of game for LG Divine as well, because they're going to be one of, if not the first teams to actually get on the move when that circle pops. And that, in essence, means they have the lion's share of basically all the compounds. Anything that they could possibly want right now, they can take. And that's exactly what they want to do. That's their game plan. They're always the team that likes to move first. They always like to get a center compound, and they just like to sit there for the rest of the game. They'll sit there as long as they can, regardless of how many kills they're getting, knowing that it's very likely they'll win the game. If the circle shrinks on top of them, they might get, you know, maybe 4 or 5 kills in that win. But that's enough for them at this point.
So we cracked the 10-minute mark, though, and one thing I just want to bring up that's a bit of an anomaly based on the last game is the fact that we've only had 1 death at the moment. By now, we had a bit of a slaughter. Although, yeah, very, very dangerous. Insight was dead to rights, basically. As soon as he turned around and slowed down, made it really easy for Sharper Esport. 2 kills early on. They've got the first 2 kills of this game, backing up their chicken dinner in style. And unfortunately for Fury, when it's not your night, when it's not your really weekend as a whole, it all just comes crashing down at once, and we're seeing it right now on our screens.
Yeah,
And
I think Insight had an idea, by the way, that there was a team above him there. That's why he kind of slowed down and didn't want to go up that hill. But he was sort of in two minds. It was a bit of a hesitation, and that certainly cost him. Sharper Esport, though, will lose one for their trouble as well. So I don't think either team actually walks away from that feeling particularly happy about it, because you're losing a player that early on in the game for only 1 point. It's not really worth it, although it does pop Fury back up into 5th place. So there's that to speak of. But you'd rather have all 4 players alive, give yourself a much better chance of winning the game, though we've certainly seen any number of games won with only 3 or maybe even 2 players alive.
yeah,
So we can't count either of those teams out, especially the way that Sharper looked in game 1. Cerberus here, Hacienda, El Patron are going to start to move their way out.
Sololzi.
Sololzi might be a little bit too little too late, and Seymour gets rid of him pretty easily. That's unfortunate for Cerberus.
That's more than unfortunate for Cerberus, considering where they're at as well, tied with Fury of 142 points. Now they're in the same predicament as them, so less likely to capitalize on the misfortunes of both Sharper and Fury, right? They lose a really good player too. Sololzi has been the Robin to Hisaki's Batman, which is really what I think Cerberus were missing in the earlier iterations of the PCS events, PCS 1, PCS 2, etc., was that it was all about Hisaki, and if he wasn't there, then they fell. But Sololzi has really stood up for this team since joining the roster. Sophia, not going to take those shots at all, in fact, which is not like Bay apparently tonight. I would have expected him to somehow fly over there and try and breach that moving vehicle. Not possible, though. 10 seconds till phase number 3. Do we have a Cruiser Divide finish potentially? Or I'm thinking maybe we could still shift over to what is this mountain range around water treatment? And it is very much a mountain range, and we do get it, Jordan. This is a huge feed for Divisionx as well. High elevation, LG Divine, 2-2 split. They're going to have to make a decision here.
Divisionx are just going to need to be careful that they don't let Angel Alliance come in from behind them and ruin their chances in this game. Even Unicorn Cyber coming up, potentially past water treatment, could be a concern for them as well. But we'll turn our attention to Buriram, who again is going to have to be one of those teams to rotate up to the north. LG Divine are consolidating their forces as well. They had a 2-2 split. JN has joined the northern side of that, and Nikki is well and truly on his way as well in a motorbike, working his way around those cactuses, which are pretty damn big cacti as well, I would just say. Imagine running into one of those on a bike.
Certainly would be a prickly situation, that's all I'll say. 13.5 minutes gone. Match 22. Big game brewing here for LG Divine, for Divisionx as well. Teams 2 and 3 on the leaderboard. This is the last hurrah for Divisionx. If they're going to even have a slight chance of that top spot as we shift over to From the Future, Magic Esport, Triple X does spot Valix all the way at the back of the blue building. Tom K is involved here. He's always a sharp player for Magic Esports, really their best player. Valix is able to jump across, get to the different building, but Tom K does fall down to the nade of Hexagon, who I think should get Valix here pretty comfortably. Had to do a quick little double take into the window. I think you may have even been surprised how easy that was. And a nice double kill from the future. We'll be able to get a third as well.
What is going on?
Just rocks up to the compound of Gypsy Danger, who should be with Mip and Zuzu.
It's actually a 2-2 split here for From the Future, so neither can actually help the other at the moment because they're kind of fighting their own battles. But funnily enough, both of those battles for From the Future are going pretty well. They're fragging out today. Hexagon gets another one there, finishing off Tonke. And now it's Los Santos that's trying to get his mate up from Purple Mood. You can see Sulubi still hanging around here for Magic Esport. But From the Future, they're fighting a battle on 2 fronts and winning both of them. Can't believe it. Fury's gone for this mad long rotate as well, by the way. They're all the way up to the northern side of the map, which, considering they started it all the way down towards the south in Los Leonas, they have been pretty much spending this whole time driving, but they have been rewarded with a fairly open part of the map to work their way through. You know, the majority of teams are coming in from the south. They'll have to probably deal with Ferox, but aside from that, there isn't really anyone else in the nearby vicinity.
15 minutes gone. We kind of edged closer to the halfway mark for this match. Seeing a bit of action, especially for the teams around 4 to 8 on the leaderboard. We get closer to phase 14. Divisionx haven't moved. LG Divine, of course, they cancelled that 2-2 split. They grouped up. If they get this northern shift, I think they win the game. I'm happy to call it from here if it goes to the north, which it does not. In fact, it does the opposite, Jordan. I've kind of put the Mozzie on them. It goes right onto the compound of Hydra Gaming, which has Cerberus kind of lingering outside. It's only a 3-man Cerberus, though, so it's not their full force, but it's still pretty decent for what is the second last compound. Well, there's 3 compounds in the circle, but I wouldn't count Bays as really a hot position to go for. Then, of course, you got From the Future, Magic Esport fighting at the one to the west of Cruza Divai. And then the rest of it is just terrain, which for a circle like this, at the very least, terrain is pretty nice to have, considering there's no compounds.
Well, it actually starts to look a bit more like a Buriram game where they have a bit of a circle shift, but they're still playing from the edge, and now they can start to sweep the sides of the map and cause some problems. Keep our eyes on From the Future, who are still in a bit of an engagement. They haven't been able to knock these Magic players out of position, but they've got all 4 players in this compound now, and Imuma is about to find that out. Mipan Zuzu gets one more for From the Future, who continue to put in the good work for the final day of PCS3 Apac. Just one more player to find from Magic, and it's Sulaby. They know that he's upstairs. They've spotted him out now as well and done a bit of damage. So Gypsy Danger is going to be leading the charge. Breaching straight on in there. And there's just no chance, surely, for him. Oh, Sulaby got a double kill. Double knock, I should say. Luckily, Mipan Zuzu and Gypsy Danger were there to finish things off.
Hectic right now for phase 4. Not a surprise, considering the circle shift that we saw. Fury at least found a shack, which the problem with this shack, you can kind of see it actually from Bryn's perspective. Thank you, Bryn, but there's nothing around it. It's just all open field. They haven't even really got terrain that's going to be able to block sightlines either.
Yeah, it's also not exactly the greatest of cover because there's just these massive openings on both sides that can be exploited by teams that are to their north or to their east or west.
What does LG Divine do here, though? Because there's nothing for them to crash. They would usually love to crash a center position, a center compound, but they've got nothing to crash. They're going to actually have to play an edge game here.
Yep.
They're going to have to scrap it out on the edge, find kills, which is, well, it could be their downfall, but it also could be their way to that top spot. If they can go and scrap and find these, 10, 12 kills and then potentially get a top 3 placing, that's what could get them the top spot back. So it's a big opportunity has been presented. They've got to be able to grab it with both hands now.
I'm not so sold yet, Xenox. I'm a little bit more favorable towards Buriram out of this game. Angel Alliance, Mad Dog nearly turns around and gets the work done, but Divisionx Gaming are picking up some pretty important points as well, so let's not forget about them. Good couple of points on the board for them, and Angel Alliance, 2 pretty rough starts for them. Or ends even, as well. Could be considered. 16th and a 14th or 15th. It's 15th place for them this game, but not that it matters too much. I mean, Divisionx Gaming are the important factor. Well, LG Divine's on the move, and that's what we want to keep an eye on here, because I'm not sure how this edge game is going to work for them, but they're going to have to make it work. They have some pretty difficult teams to get through in their route to the center of the circle here. Victim Rise, Day Trade, even Fury just over to the side of them could be all problematic.
Well, this forces their hand now with this phase 5 circle, because you can see it, Day Trade, VTR, all on the edge of the circle, but they're not going to be in a hurry to get to the center. So they can very much gatekeep the likes of Fury, LG Divine, VTR can gatekeep Divisionx before rushing to the center. If you rush to the center here, you're just fodder to 5, 6 different teams who are going to have angles on you in what is a very open area. Buriram are going to get to do the same thing as LG Divine. They've actually got very similar positions just on either end of the circle. LG Divine on the north, Buriram on the south, but they're going to have similar sort of paths really for the remainder of this game, of basically having to push into the circle and push through teams and fight their way to victory. If Buriram lose theirs and LG Divine win theirs, well, you're going to see that leaderboard really shrink quickly.
Well, the opposite can happen as well, and it can really just balloon out, and we might go into a wrangle thinking, well, what are the chances here for LG Divine, especially knowing that they're a really good Miramar team. So we definitely expect them to pick up points on this map. And so far they haven't. But there's plenty of game to play yet here in our second four this evening. From the future are continuing to just frag out. There goes Ferox. I mean, what did they have for breakfast today?
Oh,
that's
man.
like 3 teams that they've gotten rid of already. I don't believe it.
Great to watch. From the future, by the way, just now into the top 10 as well, quietly. The Indonesian team doing quite significant work here towards the end, looking for a top 8 position going into Erangel. Fergus peeks over the ridge, gets a knock. Long K has been bled out though, so down to 3 players for Divisionx. That's a great nade. Does bounce too far though. The bounce, well, if he had it cooked it a little longer, that could have been
this one
a
longer.
great nade. This one has been cooked longer, as you said. This could be the perfect. Oh my days! It does get one elimination, a second knock. The Molotov to follow gets a knock onto Chibberit as well. Divisionx should go to about 4 or 5 kills now in a second. FTF have just gone up to 10 kills as well. There's Neil confirming those 2. There's the 5 kills. Fury have been ripped to shreds, by the way, up north. They're as good as done now. There's definitely no chance for first, maybe even second, going into Erangel. But Divisionx, Jordan, they're having one last little crack.
Well, Divisionx are really putting teams under the pump at the moment. LG Divine get a knock onto Flash. Important points on offer here for LG Divine. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, Xenox. We don't normally see them play Edge, but by virtue of playing Edge, they are now going to have to get into these engagements, and they're a team that's very, very solid in those engagements. It's just that we normally see them making these kinds of fights happen very late in the game. So they might be out of their comfort zone. There's 3 teams around them you can see, but who knows? Maybe they can frag out, pull themselves out of this one, cause a bit of a magic trick, and pull a rabbit out of the hat.
11 teams, 35 alive. Match 22 of 24, heating up here for the end of BCS 3. Apac, 4 up for Divine, 4 up for Buriram. Very close by to Cerberus as well, down to the south end of the circle. Ronan just gets ripped to shreds. Both Hexagon, Levi's, getting him down to 4 Howl. Flood just lingering around, but how much can he really do? So much pressure right now onto Fury, the duo remaining alive, currently in 5th position, tied with Cerberus on 142 points each, only the 1 kill for Fury this game. They are in the circle though, Jordan. That's the reprieve, that they don't have to push with the blue. They can hold this position, heal up, and try and play from here.
Divisionx Gaming down to 3 players, but surely they've got to know that it's LG Divine above them. They would have seen Jun get that kill. They would have heard the shots. They would have heard how close they are. So it's almost at that point where if they do know and they see LG Divine lose a player, they're going to just run north and try and force a fight on LG Divine as well, knock them out and close that gap, because that could be a potential chance into second. Let's not forget, Buriram is still alive with all 4 players down in the southern part of the map. They're not doing much this game, but they're seeing everyone else finish each other off. And all the Buriram has to do is make sure that they keep that point ticking over. 5 points a game, probably enough here. LG Divine have lost Nikki. Let's see what the reaction is from Divisionx Gaming and from Fury, both of whom start to run in this direction. Flood gets knocked down. JN finished off, but Jun is fighting hard. LG Divine are not going down without a fight.
Well, I think LG Divine are definitely going down. It's just a matter of what can they take with them now. Levi, so you've got to confirm these. There's a couple of knocked players. If they can at least get 4 or 5 kills from this situation, it's then salvageable in terms of getting those points. But you can see 3 members of LG Divine dead. Only got 1 kill out of this exchange. They did have 1 prior to this. Levi's going to be flashed. That blue is moving, and he's not inside of the circle. Somehow Fury with the 2 players going to come out on top. And Hexagon from behind. Great spray onto Flood. Ronan dies to Levi's as soon as he pushed over. Unfortunate timing for Fury, who were basically just about to eliminate LG Divine. Levi stays alive, courtesy of From the Future, who now have 11 kills this game, and they're edging closer to the top 8. 7 kills for Divisionx. And Jordan, they are edging closer to the 2-horse race. 29 points is the gap now. Haisaki for Cerberus does eliminate Simon, and Hydra Gaming are out in 9th, which means placement points are going to be distributed here for the remainder of the game. Fergus with a knockdown to Haisaki as well. Divisionx, they may only have the 3 players up, but they've got a good position out to the west. And they've just been hard-fed as well. The circle for phase number 7. Levi's still in. Buriram down to the southeast, though. They've just lost Nordra and Kanaxi. Buriram down to 2 players from this point onwards.
in all of that as well, Xenox, Divisionx, they've actually gotten rid of Bay, so they've picked up 3 more points as well, just while you were talking. The rotation down to the south, they've cleared out that part of the map. Cerberus only has 2 alive. Below them, Daytrade only has 2 alive. Above them, Buriram's looking in all sorts at the moment, but they might actually come out of this with all 4 alive because Just Moments is under pressure right now. The res is coming across onto Nordra. Canaxi's already back up, so somehow, in some way, Buriram get through that one unscathed, and they might still be a driving force in this game. LG Divine resting on Levi's to keep them in this one from the future. What a late resurgence from them as well. 12 kills now. And they're making a run in maybe for a top 8 placing.
But he can use this as cover compared to Hexagon, who obviously has to move, right, with the blue, so needs to push up. Levi's can't sit here forever, but if he does know Hexagon's coming in from behind, which it seems he does, we haven't quite seen his point of view, but the fact that he's sitting behind that truck and looking in this direction means that he's going to wait to the last second, whereas Hexagon will have to give up on this position.
He can just walk back further down to the sort of the southeast, which is where the rest of the From the Future boys are. So he's not in a terrible spot, Hexagon. And actually drops to Mipan Zuzu, who's hit a very, very long shot across the map.
12 kills from the future. Unstoppable right now on Miramar. We're down to 3. Oh, look at that. Great minds think alike, Jordan. As Levi's, though, does catch Hexagon. I was worried for him for good reason. Fortunately, the Triple X is there, though, for the free frag. Does get the elimination onto Levi's. Buriram getting involved from the other side of the circle, but FTF down to just 1. They just lost Mip and Zuzu and Triple X instantly. It's only Gypsy Danger left. And Buriram have still got 3 alive. They're going to be able to extend the lead here regardless, unless they get eliminated right now, which then it still remains at just the 14 points. 3 players up. Next circle does not go their way, though. Once again, Buriram need to get moving. Can they find kills along the way? That nade's going to fall short from Heisaki of Cerberus. They do smell blood in the water, though. Cerberus pushing towards Buriram.
I think Divisionx Gaming also need to smell that blood in the water. Edie finishes off Just Moments, so there is 1 more point there for Buriram. But they've lost Nordra in doing so. So it's down to the 2 remaining Buriram players here. And they're certainly not the most powerful looking team remaining in this game. That certainly would be Divisionx Gaming, who have 3 and have cleared out their side of the map. Haven't been fighting at all. And they're looking pretty comfortable. Things will probably slow down a little bit here. We might see Gypsy Danger drop. He's a solo From the Future, hanging around near Daytrade. But I think we'll probably have to see the next circle shift before anything too crazy starts to happen. Some sniping shots across here from Basil and from Cerberus onto Buriram. But even now, God Meow can just duck his head down below that ridge. They're inside of the circle, so they don't have to do anything at the moment, Buriram.
5 teams, but 10 alive. 3 up for Divisionx, which, 10 minutes ago was a detriment. Now it's a positive. 28 points behind Buriram. They're only 12 points now behind LG Divine. Certainly of that group of 3 that we spoke about to start the night, they're the only ones really coming to the table. But of course, they've got to make sure they can do it on both maps. They've got to do it on Erangel as well after this. Gypsy Danger got Balmoth, expecting the push. Does stand up through the flash, now going over the ridgeline. And that flash did connect as well on to Norins. A quick double from the future. They do go out in 4th position, Jordan, but what a game. One of the better performances, really, for PCS3 Apac. And they should be very happy that they've gotten into the top 8 on the leaderboard, but of course they have been eliminated. Leaderboard a little slow to update that one. Well, down to the final 3 teams. It hasn't been a big kill game for Buriram, Jordan, but they're going to get the placement points and they are going to increase their gap to LG Divine.
Well, that's all you need to do when you are the team that's in front by such a substantial margin. It was 14 coming into today. Now it's already 18. Might well end up being a couple more depending on what happens here for Basil. Divisionx Gaming almost assured a victory in game 2 of this evening. And that is enough to substantially close the gap on LG Divine. Maybe not enough to really get them in striking distance of Buriram, but keeps things interesting at the very least. This next kill, though, could be quite important. We'll see how much of a lead Buriram does inevitably need when we get onto Erangel, but Well, there's an extra couple of points that go by the wayside because Basil gets the kill and takes second place. Divisionx, no surprises, will finish off with a win. But Xenox, it's exactly what we said we needed. A 14-kill win. We were theorizing maybe something like 20 to 30 points in this game might be enough to keep one of those teams, whether it was Divisionx, Cerberus, or Shark,